live.
It doesn't matter. It's always live to them.
Right.
It's like they're watching a replay that we did live.
Just as you're coughing.
Yeah. We're live?
Well.
Thanks for the countdown. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Mike Filsame here with a different AJ. This is AJ Roberts. Our Andy Jenkins got the bug. Sassy Dazzle behind the camera was patient 0. He got sick in November. Oh, let's hit that mute. He got me sick and got Michelle sick and Donna sick and the whole office has been sick. We got the entire cruise ship sick, and then Carnival got Royal Caribbean sick and they had to redock.
Yeah.
And but seriously, if you fellow mad scientists can do us a favor and find Andy on Facebook and wish him well. He is just got the cold sweats and he's sleeping and it's just the start of something bad. So wish him well. We want to introduce you to the other AJ. This is AJ Roberts. You may recognize AJ as the world's strongest man. Formerly, believe it or not, AJ at one time was the strongest man to ever walk the earth in the last 4.5 billion years.
Yeah.
And then recently, and that's not, I was fascinated because I just recently found out that's not in a division, that's not in a weight class. At 308 pounds, you deadlifted, squatted, and bench pressed a combined weight of more than anybody in any competition in history.
Yep.
And since then, another person has beaten you, and then 2 other people. So you're currently the 4th. Your record stands as the 4th strongest of all time.
My record, but shadow of my former self.
Yeah, well now he's dropped 100 pounds and he's going into the the ripped fitness. But AJ, you may recognize also as the MC at the last several underground online seminars run by Yanik Silver, and AJ, we're pleased to announce, is on board with our company, and he helps us run the marketing. AJ is a marketing genius. I'm glad to have him next to me. I was very surprised to see your talent when Andy was telling me, wait till you see AJ. And sitting in, I'd like to get all the feedback from you now in the meetings that we have and let you take it away.
Yeah, I think I need to just take you around everywhere we go and just have Mike intro me to everyone. It
was a good.
I just it'd be like me and Mike show, and Mike can just intro me.
So guys, let me also say one other thing. Our very, very good friend, fellow mad scientist, Ted Wasco, as I like to call him, Wasoko. Ted, I also scheduled a hangout the same time as you, Wasco, in quotes. Scheduled a hangout session for you guys last week where he forgot to set the notification, and then I understand that he reset his hangout to be right now. I was just talking with him on Skype. So I told him, it is unfair, I feel, for him to be soliciting the same people when we're doing our jam session that we announced last Thursday. I've asked him in his hangout right now to give everybody the link to this one, and hopefully Ted will be doing that and sending everybody over here. So thanks for joining us. So the format for today, we're going to go 60 to 90 minutes as promised, and we'll probably do another one in 2 weeks, the one that we were going to do with Andy in 2 weeks, and maybe we'll even have the 3 of us next time. I like the format.
Yeah,
so
why not?
We figured here's what we want to do. We want to take your questions, answer them live. We can do a critique of your landing page. We can answer any question you have about Facebook traffic, marketing funnels, list building, video marketing, search. I was going to say search engine. I meant social media.
Yeah, anything you guys,
anything marketing.
Throw it at us, and of course, if we don't like it, we just won't answer it.
Yeah, and we're on a 60-second delay, as you know, with Google Hangouts. So we're going to wait for those questions to come in, and while we do that, we've seeded about 4 questions that we're going to do while we're waiting for your questions to come in. So AJ, what are some of those questions here that you seeded? Yeah,
so we pulled these questions right out of the mastermind group.
Hold on just 1 second. Dave, is there a chat, or did you shut that off?
Chat is enabled.
It's enabled. Okay, cool. So we will wait for those to come in, and go ahead. What questions do we have?
Yeah, so some questions that came in through the Mad Scientist Mastermind group, and we figured these are the ones that haven't had much response, or we wanted to give our response. So the first question we have is from Sarah Young, and her question was in regards to creating videos online, and basically, how do you create videos that are evergreen and make sure that you can repurpose them and use them over and over again when software is changing so rapidly, you know, the updates to, say, Facebook ad platform or WordPress or something like that.
That's a great question.
And
so yeah,
I'd
love your take on that, and then I'll give you the feedback, because we've dealt with software over the years.
Yeah, so obviously the biggest thing when we're creating content is always to keep the end goal in mind. And so when we're creating anything that we plan to use Evergreen, if it's in a product, the biggest way to do it is create it and have points where we can edit back features that we know are going to change. And so that may be a face-to-camera intro to the subject, and then switch to the screen flow or screen capture of that for the specifics of setting up the nitty-gritty. Anything other than that, we want to really keep in mind right of what is the purpose of the video. And if the purpose is simply to share the core concepts or the strategies, the theories, anything like that, and then we need to make sure that we present them separately so that we're not talking over a screen capture of whatever software it is we're walking them through. That way, when there are updates and edits that need to be made, it's easy for the video editor to go in and find those points in time and just switch them out for the new videos and do the new voiceovers. So that's the first thing to do, is keep that end in mind. And then the second thing to remember, unfortunately in this industry, is everything does change at such a rapid pace that some videos and some of the content we create is going to need an updated version. Absolutely. Which gives us an opportunity to either you know, provide free upgrades as a front-end bonus when we're creating software or training products or anything like that, or re-release the product as version 2.0 and have another cash surge in the business. So there is obviously a lot of negatives to having to redo content, but at the same time, there's a huge upside of that, as it gives us another excuse to promote something, which at the end of the day, you know, it's all about offers. How many offers do you get out in front of them? And any excuse to promo is a great excuse. And what better excuse than, hey, we have new software, we have a new update, we have a new training for you.
So great points altogether. You know, we've done a lot of software over the years, and the first thing you want to do is you always want to make sure that your main message is identifying the biggest pain that somebody has and how your software solves it, and that's the key. And then you've always got to remember your competitors are always coming out with new software. And so we like to talk about having something called people call it the USP. We like to say the preeminent distinction. Right. Distinction. What makes you different? You want to highlight that very, very quickly when you're talking about your software. And if that no longer becomes special, if your preeminent distinction is no longer a distinction and everybody finally caught up, then you can't lead with that anymore. Right. So there is no hard and fast rule to tell you how often you want to change, but generally you can get a good year to 2 years out of your sales video. What we did at Evergreen Business System, I'll pull that up over here, and Sassy, we'll go to the live feed if we can pull that in. Let's see. My goodness, so Evergreen Business System had, look at the time here on this, 57 minutes. So you can imagine Hector and I didn't want to go back and have to redo a 60-minute video every time we added features. So what we did in this one here is pretty much we added some of the new features. Let me see, right here. So these things that say new, so we just move them up to the top of the page. Translated to 20 languages. Pay per attendee webinars. Register users from your own squeeze pages. New, integrate straight into your WordPress blog. Use any time zone. Oh, this isn't new anymore. So as you can see, it even went out of order here because we dumped the new items in there in between one. So that's another thing that you can do. You can feature the new features up at the top, but I do think that you have to be prepared at one point or another after about 2 years or so to go back and redo the video sales order. It's not that hard to do. Yeah. You know, we dread it here as well, but look at the stuff that we did in the weeks before I went on the cruise for Webinar Jam.
Yeah, wow.
We wrote the sales copy, recorded the videos, different style videos, demo videos, Andy and I in front of the Boss Vision, which is what we see here. This was one example that we split tested the Evergreen business system style video sales letter with the animation versus us doing a live thing in front of the TV. We tested them, and we knocked those things out in about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it just, I think that the biggest thing to realize is that the content you create on the front end, to avoid going in and showing demos and using anything that would need to be replaced. And then, of course, on the back end, as I said, break that up. But that's the real thing. When we created the sales pages for Webinar Jam, and I think we did about 5 because with the upsells and everything. Right. When you knuckle down and crank it out, it's a lot easier to do. But we didn't worry about it until it was time to take action and go. And of course, now with the different software that's available to create video sales letters, I mean, you've got softwares that will pretty much write the sales letter for you, and then you have softwares that will build it with the graphics and everything like that. And if you don't know how to do it yourself, of course, you can easily hire people. There's so many people offering that as a service now. It really shouldn't take you more than a week to switch something out. So the biggest issue is always going to be on the training side of stuff. And again, you just want to make sure if it's technical training where you're showing them specifically how to set stuff up, that's separate from the overview of theories and concepts, because that stuff's always going to be true, and whereas the technical stuff is what you'd have to change. So
cool. Next question, guys. I just reloaded my session here because I don't see any people in here. When I click attendees, oh, there they are. See, yeah, that's why I had to hit refresh. Mine was still saying 0. And any questions yet from the attendees, or are we going to take from here?
How important is personal brand?
How come, now just help me out, why don't I see those questions? Bear with us, guys, here. I'm just trying to get this navigated here. I'm looking at, Dave, can you show me where I would see these questions?
In the Webinar Jam chat on the side.
Is it private?
Why don't you come over, take a look here? And it doesn't matter. Dave's going to hide his face. Dave's one of those camera steals his soul guys. If you can tell me why I'm not seeing anything here. Oh, there it is. I see. Great to be here. Oh, you know why? Because I just refreshed the page. Maybe it doesn't show me all previous chats until I got here. So that's what it was. So I should have refreshed my page. Good thing to know. Refresh the page when the chat starts.
When we start.
Cool. So those of you that are just joining, we got about 15 people that joined since we started. We've got a couple of seeded questions here. AJ's going to read off another one for us. In the meantime, any questions that you guys have, we're going to go into the mastermind, pull some questions out of the Mad Scientist Mastermind as well, and get some questions for you. Donna's running some questions over to us as well. And next question, AJ. Oh, one other thing. Those of you just joining, remember, Andy Jenkins, not feeling well today, has the little flu bug that's going around. Hit him up on Facebook. Tell him to feel better. AJ Roberts, new on the team here, head of marketing, sitting in. Maybe we'll get him on more of these. It's great to have him here. Next question.
Great. So next question basically was from Ben Pritchett, and it's kind of a great follow-up for what we just answered. But basically, does anyone, what's the experience with services like Video Scribe or Sparkle?
What's the difference between them?
Or what with the experience with them? Are they good? How do they work? Sean, let's tell Sean to get in here, and I know Dave, we've used them before. We use both. Yep. Dave, when we're sending them over to PH, they're using Sparkle, right? No, Powtoons.
Powtoons, and we used Sparkle in the Video Genesis launch for the handwritten part.
Okay, so the Video 1 of Video Genesis, I remember Andy Jenkins said, Andy said, we're about to show you a video within a video, and then I said, there are 34 mistakes that most marketers make, even the experienced ones. And then when that video started, we started, and that was actually a Sparkle animation. Sean, why don't you come on in?
I think in
Sassy, if the audio is too bad with him standing over here, let me know and I'll pick up the mic.
I think in Genesis Labs, in the video that's up there now, there's also, because we combined the launch videos.
Genesis Labs used Powtoons, right?
Yeah, and so we've been using it as in combination, and so it's just quicker for people to rank it out.
You actually animated the Sparkle, so I'll pull it up while you're talking about it. Sean, tell him how that process went down, and and then when we're done, we're basically going to tell you that it's personal preference. Everyone has a feel. It's like, what do you like better, a PowerPoint or Keynote?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a feel or a gut feeling that you have. I think they're both pretty much the same thing. You set a timing, you set an animation. Talk about that, and I'll bring the video up while we do that.
Sure, absolutely. Can you hear me all right back there? We good? E?
A little light?
I'll just lean in here. There we go. How you doing, buddy? It's Sparkle, right? That's the name of the.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
How did you do that? I remember we had you do the animations for that.
So I'm mainly a web.
No, don't worry about that. You keep talking to the camera.
Oh, they can see. So I'm mainly the web kind of guy, but this tool, it's cool. Like it's built for if you've never really used like a video editor in your life kind of thing. It's a very user-friendly type interface, so it's not like overwhelming. I didn't actually know how to use it when I first started with it, and after, are you looking for the?
No, don't you worry. You do your thing, and I'll get that up.
All right. So off the top of my head, I didn't actually know how to use it, so I had to play around a little bit. But
I remember you were able to get it done in one day.
Yeah,
like one day.
Literally.
I'm going to pull that animation up right now.
Yeah, it was.
Sassy, unfortunately, I can't control the volume here. It doesn't work.
Oh, is it?
See?
Oh, is he right here?
Oh, it's touchscreen? Well, so Sassy, you're going to pull the feed in, and right after this, step aside in case he's shown. Yeah, there you go. This is it.
All the mistakes in different categories. There's the geeky stuff like encoding audio levels, white balance, and aspect ratios.
Then there's the visual stuff like bad camera framing or exposure,
ugly design, and distracting sets.
And finally, there's the terror message, weak calls to action, pointless feature
I think I
content,
spelled
and
everything
the
right
other
too.
lack of benefits to the viewer. Yeah, I think that's
it.
But Mike, here's the point on this. So, Sean, you'd never actually used that before,
Right.
and this was what we would call a flagship product. It was a
Right.
cornerstone. It was a big launch. We put a lot of effort into it.
We also wanted to eat our own dog food.
Right.
Like, we knew there were 13 styles of video,
Yeah.
and we wanted to try to incorporate every style of video into the launch at the end. And we were going to later bring that back, but then we felt it just wasn't necessary to drive that home that, hey, there were all 13 styles were used.
But it ended up being a very successful launch. I mean, Sean learned that in one day, and he's not a video guy. That's not his profession. So in essence, to answer the question in terms of the benefits of these, is they're just going to speed the process up. And that's really what you see with a lot of these new internet software and tools and stuff. It's about fast tracking.
I remember I didn't even look at Sparkle when we first started going, because when I first got there, they didn't even have an image library.
Right.
And now these things, they're buying up all types of graphics and what do they call those, vector images and all that.
And I mean, you always talk about speed to market, and that's really why you would invest in something like this, is speed to market. At the end of the day, if you don't have the money to hire a big video team, someone to stand behind the camera, someone to edit the video, and you are doing it yourself, which a lot of entrepreneurs end up doing the majority of the bulk work themselves. This software is going to take one day, and you have your VSL done. I mean, you can get out to market as soon as possible. So.
Yeah. Now, so for me, the way I look at Sparkle compared to Powtoons, I look at Sparkle more as first, if I was going to go out and hire a video scribe doodle person, and I look at Powtoons more as a super amped up keynote presentation animation software. Sparkle uses and Sparkle and Video Scribe are the same thing, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
And they use a technology using the graphics should be vector images, and what that means is that they can scale to any size, and then you basically, let's say you had a person standing at a bank, and you say, so when I first walked into the bank, I wanted to know if I should open up a checking account, a savings account, or both. And then you see that sentence lasted 7 seconds. So you simply say, draw this image over 7 seconds, and it'll move the pen and mouse. You can do words, so you can, as you saw, we were very text-rich. Or you can draw the images as you saw as well. So that's what I like about Sparkle. And as you said, in Genesis Labs, we were very heavy with Powtoons when it came to the offer. Powtoons was pretty much the whole, after we did all the cinematic part of the video with Andy walking around the house, and then once we got to the offer, it was all done in Powtoons. And we split tested Powtoons versus Keynote, and the Powtoons actually won. I like the Keynote look better myself, but Powtoons did a little better in the
and that's why we split test. You know, we always say you never lose when you split test. You always get a result, and we learned something. Sometimes our personal preferences aren't what converts, and that's why we leave it.
Almost every time.
Now, guys, I'm going to tell you, I have to say this. I don't think that you need to test Keynote and Powtoons. AJ, wouldn't you agree? Like we do it, honestly, we do it because we want to know we're going to be doing this for years to come, and we want to set a control that gives us that 0.5% advantage that on everything over the years, and we can go out and teach you and say, we tested this, but we're not telling you.
I wouldn't start there. No,
I would not tell you that if you're going to go out and do a video, to go out and have a 30-minute video done in Powtoons and in Keynote. They're both going to, if they're both done well, and we did them both well, they're both going to convert pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Speed to market, baby.
Cool.
All righty.
Answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. I'll be right
So cool. So
we have a live question here. Let's take that one.
From Justin?
Let's take, Donna said here, Justin, how important is personal branding? So I'll give you my take on that. I think personal branding, more and more today, and I'm not going to say something like, if you're the talent and you're the expert, you want to do personal branding, but if it's for a corporation, not necessarily. The more and more that I'm looking to corporations today, Sprint, General Motors, these people coming out and saying, hi, I'm the president and CEO of Sprint. And I see the owners of these companies coming out. I see the owners of Netflix, the way Steve Jobs was in part of his company, the way Richard Branson is part of his company. You look at the owner of Chipotle,
right?
You know, right, the way this guy is, like, people are buying into the brand, into the person. I think today, personal branding, it's time. Chip Connolly has a real good book on this as well. It's time to, and you know well because Yanik was one that introduced me to Chip. It's time to step outside of the corporate veil and come around and let people buy into you.
Yeah, I think, you know, the old thought process with a lot of these companies is the reason they didn't have personal in it was because there was always an ebb and flow. You know, a lot of these corporate companies go through changes quite often. And the truth is, with the internet and social media and all of those things, is that, you know, back in the day, think about it, someone will try to get a hold of you, they give you a phone call, you're not home, they leave you a message, you get home 3 hours later, you decide it's 10 o'clock at night, there's no way you're going to call that person back the next day, maybe you've remembered to, maybe you don't, and there was never any feeling on the other person's part that you had neglected me, because we were conditioned to believe that the person will call me back the minute they have the opportunity to. But times are completely different now, thanks to, you know, this little device here. I mean, we have kids in third world countries that have access to everything in the world right on their phone. And what makes the difference in personal branding is now when someone is mistreated and they post on social media, a lot of times those go viral. And a friend of mine, Craig Hanley, he was just at Traffic and Conversion and returned his car to Thrifty, and they have a new policy. You have to have a receipt. So his filled the tank was completely full, but they charged him $9 because he didn't have a receipt. Craig being Craig, you know, made a post about it, then made a video about it, and it's gone pretty viral. But the point is,
I love those things.
Now, if the owner of Thrifty came out and apologized, and reached out to Craig and said something, then there's a good chance Craig and everyone who supported Craig would happily rent from Thrifty again.
And forgiven what happened, because stuff happens with employees. But when an owner backs his company.
And I've seen companies do that. I've seen airline companies do that, you know, that makes the difference. And when you're in it for the long game, you're not in it for the short game. When you're in it the long game and you're building a business that lasts for a year, those are the things that make the difference. It's the connections, because if your customers feel as if they're heard, then they're going to be loyal and they're going to stay with you, and they'll ride the wave when there will be troubled times. Or there'll be blackouts and the internet will go down, and companies like AT&T will have to deal with that. But if you don't just get a candid response, you get a personal response in a public way, it makes all the difference. And the fear is, what happens if we want to sell?
Right.
And I honestly my belief is you should never build a company to
I don't
sell.
think that matters.
So,
I think when your DNA gets into the company lives on based on the founder's DNA.
Yeah, look at Apple.
Look at Apple,
yeah.
Exactly. Steve Jobs will, one day be that bronze figure 200 years in front of that company. The ideals were founded on, on his ideology. Right. And you look at Martha Stewart, like, do you think that Walmart is worried about Martha Stewart, dying? Martha Stewart living will go on. Right. It's a brand. Yeah. I learned a lot about branding being part of the Mavericks. We brought a lot of people in that spoke about branding. I remember John Paul Gregorio, John Paul DeGiorio. It was
Paul Mitchell.
Paul Mitchell,
tequila,
and Patron.
Patron
tequila was the one, and over the years, and looking at reading books like with Damon John, understanding how important branding is, it's key. So the question, how important is branding, is paramount. So let's move on and let's bridge that question for maybe 2 minutes. If you're creating a personal brand and you also have a business, how do you interweave those two? So I'll give a little bit of feedback on that. The first thing, I think it's important that your corporation has social media pages. I think that you should also have a social media page, and I think they need to weave in and out between the two. Recently, many of you know I posted my wedding proposal to Michelle on Facebook, and this is an interesting conversation I had.
Brought a lot of people to tears with that one.
Yeah, I had a couple of conversations with John Reese about it, and John says, why do you want to bring that, Mike? That's something that's personal. And I said, I agree to each their own. Yeah. However, for me, the internet marketing community is an extension of my family, and I wanted to not only share that publicly on the Marketer's Cruise, but I wanted to share that with my list and my community. I remember coming on the market, and this is somebody that was on the Marketer's Cruise. He walked up to me when we were in Grand Turk, and he just saw me with hundreds of people, and we're just going around all the shopping districts, and he says, "Oh, hey, Mike, how are you?" I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "I just want to let you know, I thought I knew you, but I don't." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, don't take this the wrong way. I just thought that you were a very commercial person, because all I ever see is you always, talking about marketing or pitching or something like that." And he says, "For the first time, I got to see the real you, and my wife and I were saying, wow, that's a good guy." And he says, "You have a customer for life." And to me, that was like a message, just letting people know who you are. And I think the owner of Chipotle is good. There's a difference between Taco Bell, these yum brands out there that are just, hey, we're about cheap food, get it anywhere you want, GMO, toxins, all this stuff in your food, or not only a company that stands behind it, but where did that principle come from, the founder?
And if you look at the companies that are doing well, it's companies that have a mission. So Tom's Shoes, everyone knows who Tom is and what the mission is, and they support that. And so if you're hidden and people don't know what you stand for and what your personality is, and don't know what it is you're passionate about, because you've put it behind a corporate logo and you've put it behind what's personal and what's in the office, you lose that. And so people build successful companies with that, but we look at it, and we are very fortunate enough to interact with multiple 7, 8+ figure business owners. Even the people who are very successful financially, it's only those who seem to have a connection and to serve others in some sense that are satisfied with their business. Everyone else seems to be searching for something. And so it's not just about building a big company, it's about building a company that makes you happy. And I don't know any other way than the connections. That's what we're all here for, is to connect with others, and you do that on a much deeper level when you open yourself up for it.
Yeah, now you can walk right up to that line. I'm going to bring up an example I think you might remember. There was the, Andy says, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Right. Were you in the session with Chip Colony a couple of years ago when he was talking about the situation with Burning Man?
No. I heard about it though, about how they were almost just going to shut it down because it became it flipped from.
Well, here's the thing: is he went to Burning Man, and he posted on his Facebook and his 5,000 employees through his 20 different luxury hotels in the Northern California area. He's one of those guys that creates that experience type hotel. Like you walk in, the valet guy gets your name, gives it to this person. Everywhere you're going, it's Mr. Roberts. And you're like, wow. They call it the critical non-essentials. And he charges more, but you get incredible experiences at his hotels. But he had posted on his Facebook a picture of him at Burning Man. And let's put it this way, if anybody knows about Burning Man, it's counterculture. Yeah. He was wearing, let's say, like a Tarzan outfit, and probably like had a feather in his hair, and his company got like completely divided. I swear, like half of them were like, we celebrate who we are and what we are, and we should not be afraid of anything. If this is good enough in our life, then and good enough for Facebook, and like half the people were fighting that. The other half of the people were fighting, saying, but at the end of the day, we're a professional company, and it's not good for the CEO of a company to be wearing a Tarzan outfit with a feather in his hair and everything. Right. And the conversation was going like this. I mean, I flip-flopped 5 different times on whether or not that photo should stay on his Facebook or not.
And that's where there is, even with opening yourself up, has to be some thought process of, at the end of the day, we are in the spotlight. Most of us, in some sense, are leaders, or people look up to us, and so in that situation, what you clearly see happening is you have a business model that attracts affluent, attracts people who seek that experience, and then on the flip side, you have an event that basically says that it's all about minimalistic. The system is broken, and that. And so, if you look at the core belief systems, if they're completely different from each other, and then and people didn't know that about someone. It could definitely cause a big spike.
Let's see what they say as we go to the next question, because there's a 60-second delay. Okay, guys, so this is you. You have a company. Let's say you're a topic expert, you're a leader, whatever. Your customers know who you are because you communicate with them with video. And there's a picture of you on a beach, and you've got a Mai Tai in your hand, and you're in your bathing suit or whatever. And some of your customers are having a problem with it, like, hey, I don't want to know about your personal life and seeing you, in your Speedo or whatever, right? And you're saying, hey, this is me on vacation, I shared it. Is it inappropriate to share those photos on your personal Facebook page, even though many of your customers are friends with you, or should you take a different road and just say, no, I'm going to stay more congruent with who I am in my corporate branded. So sound off in the comments there. We'll see what you say.
Well, here. Mike's just looking at the next question before we move on. It's interesting. James Schramko, I was just listening to one of his podcasts with him, and he actually had to scale back a little bit on those kind of posts, and not because he didn't want to share it, but because he was kind of getting almost a brand envy. Mm-hmm. Because he lives, his lifestyle. He's able to travel for the internet lifestyle and the beaches and things like that. Well, a lot of people were seeing that as a brag. Yeah. And so there's that aspect you have to balance too. So at the end of the day, it's a game. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to.
Yeah,
hear that.
A lot of people, I'll untag photos, and they're like, hey, Mike, why'd you untag that? Why'd you remove that from your timeline? Because I don't post a lot on Facebook. I really don't. So what ends up happening is, because of the socialite that I am, I like to go to events. I like to be at a cocktail party. I'm the marketer's cruise. I'm more of the nightlife guy than anything. So what ends up happening is can I get a picture with Mike? Can I get a picture with Mike? And then I end up getting flooded with a lot of let's call it the VIP type of photos, and I'm constantly removing that from my timeline because there's a lot of other stuff that I'd rather have the balance. So we'll see what they say. Sure. So next question, Eric, how are you running? Let me get my glasses on here. Here's what I call my dad look here. Okay, and I'll put on the French accent and talk like my father.
Need to get a pair.
How are you running multiple cameras and switching between them? Also, what platform are you using for the video? I know you've got EBS and EBS Live and the new Webinar Jam tools. Are you using Google Hangouts through Webinar Jam or something else? So let me start backwards and go there. Guys, it's 2 different products. People have asked me on the cruise, now that you got Webinar Jam, should I switch from Evergreen to that? 2 different things. Evergreen Business System is automated webinars. Webinar Jam was to replace GoToWebinar to do live webinars. Two different things, we're going to use both in our business, we're going to continue to. No, we're not using EBS Live. That was an integration with Joel Tyrion's Hot Conference, which became GVO Conference, which became Meet Cheap. Probably going to be phasing that out. We believe Webinar Jam is the ultimate technology. We built a front-end marketing machine for Google Hangouts. So,
and that's what we're putting our efforts into. So we have our
that's why we call this jam sessions.
we have our developers working on that software and constantly looking.
Within the next year, we'll probably even merge Evergreen and Webinar Jam into one product just called Webinar Jam.
Right. Yeah, and the reason for that is if we look at the trends and we look at the movement, video is the hottest thing. Live video is even hotter. As you can see with our setup, we're not in front of the laptop with the camera. Just on us, we have a nice setup here we're running through, and we'll probably have Sassy speak up in a minute. He's back
we'll
there.
probably bring Sassy up. He'll be upset about it.
But you're going to see a lot more of this, and in my belief is TV is literally going to vanish. Everything is going to go to streaming.
On demand. On demand.
And with YouTube, YouTube's already started to pave the way. They've laid it out. Google Hangouts, of course, is blended with that. But as a marketer, most people are going to monetize with advertisements, and they're going to have, just like a television show. And we were just saying yesterday, we were watching a video. We had to wait the 30 seconds for the video to play, and then we couldn't do anything until it was finished. And if that had happened 4 years ago, you would have been up in the arms with online video because
now we accept advertising. It's the way the world works.
Now we're blind to it. We just wait. We watch it. So the point being, Hangouts to the Hangouts to us, they're going to just continue to grow. But as a marketer, you need certain things in place to leverage that, and that's where the Webinar Jam reason it was created was to give you the power in order to monetize without having advertisements before or after, so you don't dilute your message, because almost just like a website.
Oh, I should mute my microphone. I am muted here, so I'm good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just like with a website, anytime there's a distraction, they could go away and click it. So if they're on YouTube watching this, you remember there's sidebar stuff and there's all sorts of distractions. So when you bring them to a place, you bring them to a jam session, they're in one concentric place. They're still watching on YouTube, but they're in one place. They're not distracted. They're not going away. Plus, we don't have advertisements popping up to fund the show. We're able to place our product at the points we want. Pop-ups, if we're affiliate products, we can do that too. So that's the reason for Webinar Jam. And EBS, like you said, the automated side of it is, so once if you have a webinar that crushes it, of course you want to go back and figure out how do I make money off of this residual money without doing this over and over and over again.
So Andy and I, we started this video right here. I believe the opening line of this video is, nothing converts a website visitor to a higher dollar per lead than a live webinar. Nothing does.
We're at Traffic Conversion, the internet marketing product. Clay Collins spoke, and you can go right now into lead pages and you can look at the conversions for their sites. Their biggest converting opt-in page is webinar registrations.
Yeah, in fact, he even said start creating your squeeze pages to have more of those elements. Yeah. So the reason why, so somebody would say then why do Evergreen webinars? Why not do live? There are two different types of marketing. If I can get somebody with influence, whether it's myself or create an event or get a JV partner, and we can get everybody to create an event to happen now, we want to do that live, right, especially if we've got the message nailed down. But once it's time to take that product and put it into an automated process, get it inside of people's automated email follow-ups, get it on Facebook advertising, and we're starting to focus on new products and new opportunities, well, I can't be doing a webinar 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
And that's product expansion.
You've got to put that into Evergreen businesses.
You can't expand if you're stuck doing all the time.
Yeah, so let me, before we move on and talk about the technology, I want to talk about something that's not in the question, but it's like, why do you create something like Webinar Jam when there's Evergreen Business System, which also had a live component to it? And Steve Jobs recommended the book. It's called Innovator's Dilemma. Mm-hmm. If you're an innovator, you're going to reach a dilemma that at one point that says, if I create this new technology, it's going to compete with my current technology. It's going to piss my customers off because I'm going in a new market. But if you don't do that, you're going to let your competition come over and wipe you out overnight. And you saw that happen with Microsoft. I always look back at at Steve Ballmer going like this.
Yeah.
Who's ever going to pay for a $499 phone? It doesn't have a keyboard. Look, I mean, so what? When you look at a company like Rackspace, I remember they created a separate company to do cloud computing.
Yeah.
They gave 2 guys in the company that said, cloud computing is the future. Rackspace, I could imagine at the boardroom saying, we don't want to go cloud. We want to keep people on the servers. We want to do. If that was the innovators' dilemma that they had right there. What they did right was they allowed these other 2 guys to create a spin-off company to build that and then merge it back in, rather than let some other company build it out, go for a buyout, and have that company say no and lose the market. So
yeah, and on the other thing is when you bring, there's a very clear, definitive difference between the two. If you go and look at both sales pages, everyone comes into your.
You're talking about Webinar Jam and Evergreen,
right? But everyone comes in with a different goal, and so if you're trying to serve everyone up front and you're trying to answer all of their needs, you don't speak to anyone, and that's why we have niches within niches,
right,
and all that stuff. And so at the end of the day, when opportunities come up and the decision has to be made, do we run with a new product or do we just try to reinvent what we have? A lot of the times it's easier to separate that and run with a new product and see how it goes, and then if it makes sense to merge, like you said, come back and merge. But oftentimes, like trying to explain Webinar Jam and then automating a live Hangout when people know Hangouts are live, it starts to merge. It starts to blur the message.
Exactly.
So that's what you see a lot of companies, in fact, launch things and then discontinue because they do they merge, but they build it into the new on the back.
I had if you take a look here in the Skype, I'll show you this. So I had a conversation yesterday with Mark Thompson. Many of you guys know Mark. He's the creator of Webinar Ignition. So you could see we ended at 4:46 p.m. We started yesterday at 3:03. We were on for an hour and 45 minutes. And Mark and I had a great conversation. He had Webinar Ignition. We spoke about what we did right, what we did wrong. What I liked about the conversation with Mark is that in his marketing, he tried to never say Webinar Jam, and in Webinar Jam, we tried to never say Webinar Ignition. I think it's taking the high road. Go to webinars. Let's call them the IBM, Microsoft, right, and we were the Apple 1984. Let's go after the big market. Mark went in one direction. He said, we're going to give you a software that you download, you put it into WordPress, and we're going to evergreen it. We said we're going to follow the GoToWebinar model. Answer 10 questions, we give you a link. Yeah. There's different ways to go at it. And also we decided, it's a long-term game. We're going to play the long game when there's lots of things we can do. But there's different ways to go after those things. We went a very simple way, and we even ended up competing with ourselves. We didn't want to create Webinar Jam that says that we also do automated webinars. I thought it was the bad message. Even Hector and I are still, I don't want to say disagreeing about it. I still don't necessarily think people want live webinars and automation in one. To me, I think they're two separate things. I think you don't automate a replay of a webinar. I think automated webinars are, but that's.
We'll just,
Sassy, if you want to come up, would you mind?
Well, he's coming up.
Sassy's going to come up. He's going to tell you how we do this technology.
We're working on a new product. We're working on Webinar Genesis, which is the psychology and the way to run webinars, and that's something to think about too, the difference in the psychology of a live webinar versus a replay. And there's certain things you can do in a live webinar that just do not work on a replay. And when you're on a live webinar, you want people to know it's live. Right. You want them to know that they're there with you. You want to create an experience. When you have an automated webinar, you do that as best as you can. But quite simply, let's say you're going to give a prize away at the end of the webinar to keep people and retain them throughout the entire training. Automation, you can't do that because you wouldn't know who your winners are because you're not there.
Right. You have to manufacture the process.
And so there's certain things for live webinars that make them great. There's certain things for automated webinars. And when you have a formula that works, you can duplicate across platform. But to be honest, to do a live webinar the best you can, it would not just simply take the recording and put it into an automated webinar. It's the format and the content and the structure you could repurpose. But ideally, you would want to actually format it and redo it.
It's two formats. John here agrees. I agree. Two separate things. So we're going to answer the question now of Eric. I'm going to slide over, give Sassy Dazzle here some airtime. Go into the question: how are you guys doing multi-camera shoots on a Hangout? So let me pose the problem first, and then we're going to tell you how it was solved between Dave and Sassy. And I'm going to get him a microphone. I'll pull this down and have him hold it like this. So the first thing, where's the camera? Let me jump in on the camera here so that you guys can see me. The first thing we have to understand is that Google Hangouts only support, through their normal interface, only support USB cameras, correct? Or a camera source coming from USB. Out of the gate, let's say, you know, when you're switched down from what camera you could take.
I don't know.
Okay, well that I do know. If you plug
Wirecast.
If you plug a camera into FireWire, or if you plug an HD camera into your FireWire, Google Hangouts won't recognize it. So if you go here in a Hangout, Sassy, right here is the drop-down settings,
right?
And you see these things. When you do this drop-down, it's only going to give you USB cameras or your FaceTime camera.
Right.
So the best USB camera on the market for the layman folk, the stuff that I did until I had the technology to do this, was the Logitech C920.
Okay.
And you could set one up over here, set one up over here, set one up over here. It's HD, but it's not this multi-camera studio setup that we have here. So there's lots of different things like Blackmagic, Wirecast Studio. We've tried them all. Sassy's going to tell you up until last night some of the different things that we're having to get it working, and he's going to. So here, you guys want to pay attention. It's going to get technical, and Sassy's going to tell you how we got this working.
It's very technical. So we're using hardware from a company called Blackmagic Design, and basically what that lets you do is it lets you plug in various HDMI sources and SDI sources, and through that hardware we're able to do live switching. So that's one. You know, doing a live switch is a whole other thing. So that's one component.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What that means is we've got Sassy, as they say in the studio, the man behind the glass. Sassy's on the other side there.
And we have 5 cameras.
And we have 5 cameras.
Plus,
do we have any of these cameras here that we can flip and just like that one over there?
But there's no one over there to switch.
No. So we'll have you go over there.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to stay in front of the camera. Here, take this. Clip that on yourself. And so I'm going to stay here so you guys don't see an empty room. Sassy is going to switch to one of the cameras, and we're actually going to go behind the glass of the studio and show you exactly what's going on with the lighting. Are you guys getting some value out of this? We'll definitely go 90 minutes or even 2 hours here until AJ tells me he's got to go to the gym and do a protein shake or something like that. You know, me too. I think I can use a protein shake.
Hey, you're working out. I don't have a mic, but you were working out here the other day.
I was. I get cramps like the rest of us. All right,
So this camera is looking at this.
This camera is okay, and you can move that one around and show the studio, or
Do you want to move that one around?
if you don't. I know Sassy gets upset that we're messing up the whole studio, so I'm
gonna
get in here,
By the cameras.
and there's our source. Okay, so this camera right here is the feed that this is my camera. This camera is looking on over at me. The camera that's on me is normally Andy Jenkins' camera or AJ's camera. Okay, this camera over here, what do you call this, Sassy? You call this the wide on an angle?
It's kind of like it's a wide 2-shot.
It's a 2-shot on an angle. Now, the television set, the Boss Vision, is also its own source. And can you get all this stuff over here? Sassy's gonna hate my guts for oh, he just went off. All right, there we go live. This is what we call the confidence monitor. So when I'm standing over here and I'm looking out this way, I'm looking right into this monitor over here. This tells us how long we've been on air. And over here, this is behind the glass. You're going to have Dave hiding over there. This is the main camera. This is the main 2-shot camera. We've got another, what do we got here? This is the Canon.
That's just another wide shot.
It's just another wide shot. We've got all these little, Canons. So Sassy, you can't come over here, but you can at least zoom in over here. This is the switch box. And then I wish you guys could see over here, but it would be a little too complicated. But basically what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at basically a grid of every single camera. And Sassy can just click on at any time and set a camera to be the feed. So I'll have Sassy put that back on. I'll kind of get in front of that camera there. I'll look at the confidence monitor and jump in here. Yeah, that's a pretty decent shot right there. So what we have, Stassi's going to tell you the different technology that we have to do the switching, and maybe there's probably an easier way to do it that I'll tell you for the without spending, you know, that. So Sassy, assuming we have this Canon, what do I call it? I should know the name of that. I bought it. What is that? The G20, the Canon G20.
Yeah.
They could, if they wanted to do multiple camera, let's say 3 camera, they can get 3 of those, but even those are $800.
Right.
So you're looking at $2,500 in cameras. That's a lot of money.
To do a live switch, which is what this is called, it takes an investment.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you got to build a studio.
You got to build a studio. The ATEM switcher, which is what all the sources plug into, that's like $1,200 or
Okay,
$1,000.
so the switcher.
Take a look on Blackmagic Design. I think is website.com.
What's the software that does all the cameras? Is that the switcher?
That's part of the ATEM switcher.
So that's $1,200.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you need all your camera sources, which, you know, it depends on what you want to spend, but they got to be at least HDMI cameras. The Sonys we showed, the bigger ones, we connect through SDI, which is this. It's just a better.
But it all goes into the main source. It all goes
into the main switcher, and then from there, you control that switcher with software on the laptop, so you're able to switch it. Right now, to get it live onto Google, you have to take the output.
So this is the question, Eric. This is where you want to know. 99% of the people can't figure out this. Getting all these cameras into a source, onto a computer is fine. Then you try to get Google in your drop-down to find that source, you're not going to be able to do it unless you listen to what he's saying here. That's the problem that we had up until 48 hours ago.
Right, and so what you need to do is coming out of the ATEM switcher, the program feed, which is the you know, your switched feed, that's going to go into a converter box from Blackmagic Design, which is called, Dave, what is that called?
Ultra Studio 3D?
Yeah, so Ultra Studio 3D, there's a couple different types of Ultra Studios, but basically what that does is that takes your HDMI output from the switcher and it turns it into a Thunderbolt source. So that plugs into, you know, whatever you're using to broadcast, the laptop or, you know, iMac or whatever, and then Google recognizes that feed, and then you're...
So that's it. So guys, when you're doing a Hangout and you do your drop-down, you'll see FaceTime, Logitech C920 or any, you know, USB camera that you have, and then now you'll have that source in the drop-down, and that pulls up what's
that's just there's a lot of other things that go into it, like how you set up the ATEM switcher, what the Blackmagic converter box sees. They all have to match frame rates.
I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, product.
No, it is. It needs to be a product, or at least a couple episodes on Genesis Labs.
Sorry, on the Hangout, you can put the buy button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys want to see all the links on all the software.
Yeah. So it's.
We'll probably do a Genesis Labs on that. That'll be good stuff.
It's it doesn't seem too complicated on the surface, but there's always problems. You know, all of a sudden video won't show up on one source, or it takes, you know, you got to give yourself a few days to play around with it.
Yeah, we didn't just go live. But we tested it yesterday. We were having problems.
Well, last night we couldn't get it. We couldn't get Google Hangouts to see it, even though we had the converter box.
Was the Blackmagic what helped?
It was
the Blackmagic converter or something that I know that just came in.
Well, the A10 was set. I don't know how much the viewers know about video.
When you say 8, it's A10. The number
A10, ETEM.
ETEM.
It's an acronym for something.
ATEM. Okay, A10.
I actually don't know what it stands for, but that's what we call it.
So Dave will type that in for them.
So the A10 was set to 59.96 or 9. I don't know the frame rate, but it was set to some strange interlaced frame rate, and the Blackmagic converter box was not matching that frame rate, so they couldn't see.
So even little things like matching frame rates, Google's technology is smart enough to say this is
everything
mess
has
up
to
the
be
Hangout.
lined up, you know.
Okay, I will twist Sassy's arm and try to get him to get us at least a resource link of the ATEM, the Blackmagic. You guys will be happy about that. We'll post it in the Mad Scientist Mastermind for you. At least the equipment that that we have, and then of course it's just regular things like lighting.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sassy, very much.
They did not tell me I had to explain all this, so I was not prepared.
Oh, that's all right. No, well, we didn't know we had that question. That question coming up.
So Mike, before we move on to another question, let's back up. So
I also
obviously
want
we've
to talk
just
about
shown
the Logitech C. Let me just do this real quick, because that's a $10,000, $10,000 investment with all the cameras.
No,
Five?
It's 5.
Okay. All right, so 2,500 in cameras, 2,500 in other stuff. That's not too bad for somebody that wants. If somebody's going to be doing shows like this, a $5,000 investment, I'd want to know the list of those details. So how do you do it on a budget? Well, you go to Amazon. I think for about under $100, you get the Logitech C920. We've said that 1,000 times. I would guarantee that 30% of you people that are on this right now have the Logitech C920. And from what I understand, Logitech just came out with a Mac USB, a Mac-specific USB HD camera that's even better than that. But what I did when I was doing them with Laura Betterly back at my house last year, this time when we did our hangout, I got a USB switcher, and I put Logitech C920, C920, C920. I put 4 of them in, and I put them on a tripod here, tripod there, and put one over there up in the sky and did a wide shot. And then I had Lucius sign into the Hangout as an admin, which Google allows you to have another person in as an admin. And he simply went in on the drop down, and he dropped down camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4. And the Logitech C920 actually gave pretty good, I would say 80% of the value that that you're getting here. Here, we've got all these HD cameras, but remember, it doesn't matter how good the HD camera is, it's being compressed down to Google's quality anyway.
Well, that was going to be my question, was if we were on a budget. You answered it perfectly. And we had a question about, video cameras, where to start, how do you get started. And we've always said that you use what you have, and then as you can invest, you invest more. And the truth is now with a smartphone, you can film in 1080, and for a YouTube or a Facebook video or something like that, that quality is going to be pretty good. The difference is obviously in the editing, and so that's where I would spend money first, is in the editing versus on the cameras.
Yeah.
And then when we do live like this and we're going between different things, of course, you have to have a slightly different setup. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing is you can quickly get overwhelmed with all of this, as you know. And so I would start first with doing live hangouts with just one camera, and then worry about the setup and worry about everything else. Because if you go back and you look at Andy's first videos online, back when he was in his other businesses, they're not quite as good as they are now.
No,
and so it's going to be a progression. And so a lot of the times, I know with myself too, whenever you're trying to create something, we always look at the very best and we say, well, how close can we get? But you just have to get started.
My videos, forget about it, early ones online, I couldn't even get them to load. You look at Gary Vaynerchuk's first few videos, they're horrible. I look at a lot of the people, like the #1 guy on YouTube, I think his show is =3. The guy puts out a video and he reviews viral videos. Gets 10 million views in 24 hours. His first videos were like ridiculous. The thing is to go out there and create something that you can only improve upon tomorrow by finding mistakes.
Get it out there.
Moving on, Donna posted a question here first that was in the group. How do you drive most of your traffic? Affiliates, paid, etc. So I think it's look, we have the advantage of being who we are, and we got to take the affiliate question out of the game because what benefit does that serve you to say, yeah, most of our traffic, because Marketing Genesis is a new company, we've launched a lot of products, came from affiliates. But where do we go from there? That's the important thing. We don't want to be a launch-based or an affiliate-based company.
Let's go back, because we talk it too. We don't want to be a launch-based company, so we have a very strategic game plan. But when we were meeting about that, you mentioned about how quickly you figured out online stuff. And I think that that's still true to today. So if you want to just go back, just the formula that you basically stumbled on, it still works today. Everyone I know who does it is successful. It's the people who just don't do anything are not moving forward. So why don't we go back to that model, and that's really, I think, the best way to drive traffic, especially at the beginning.
I think if you're anybody in this business, I think it's impossible not to have the question that says, what happened if everything just changed one day and things aren't like, if I had to restart? And I don't do that as the hypothetical. I literally say, I've seen certain people in this industry either get burnt out or went in a direction that wasn't what they started.
Or if you want to go into a new niche, maybe you just wanted to go somewhere.
Exactly, and this is what it would be for me. #1, I would set up landing pages, set up set up some type of free report, and before I had a product, I would start driving advertising, and I would start with Google pay-per-click and Facebook advertising. Bar none, I would just start there. I would start setting a budget, whatever I could afford daily, whether it be 30 bucks, 100 bucks a day or whatever, and I would start building a list. As soon as I saw that I had a conversion where I'm getting 30 to 50 names a day, I would immediately start creating a product, partner with somebody, create a PLR, or hopefully create a product because it was something that I was excited about, and create an offer, a one-time offer immediately there. It sounds old. It's how I started with butterfly marketing. It was squeeze page, offer, then it was squeeze page, offer, viral, back to the offer, and then I would start building out my campaigns from there.
And that's, I mean, I wanted you to recap it because that's exactly the people I talk to who need to get started. That's, you say you set up a squeeze page, you drive traffic to it, and then you offer something on the back end. Now, at first, you don't even have to offer your own products. That's the beauty. We can set it up. We could offer.
Now, when we say squeeze page, let's say landing page optimized for one call to action email. We understand, guys. We got to have navigation. We got to be Facebook and Google friendly. That we understand. But the point is one call to action.
Yeah, it's two-step marketing. Capture their email so that we can follow up in the future, and then recoup our investment with immediate offer. And the beautiful thing is you can be an affiliate to Amazon, you can be affiliate on ClickBank, you can be affiliate on Deal Guardian,
and you're acquiring leads at no cost.
Yeah.
You're building your list for free. You're then sharing videos with them. You're getting them to like your pages on Facebook. You're constantly building your brand. One of the first questions of the day, and now you're building your list. When I was doing my workout on Monday, we walked all the way up to the top of the mountain, and then he's up there and he's talking to me like this, and I'm holding my gut because of the stitch I got.
Well, the mountain's pretty far away. It's not
he
that
said
close.
to me, Mike, how did you get your email list? I heard you and Andy say 250,000. How did you get a list like that? I said, one email at a time. I said there was a point where we had none, and there was a point where we had one. There was a point where we had 16, 130, 4,200. It's linear. Yeah. So you have to start. You don't start with a 250,000 list. You don't buy that list. It's one at a time. Put the game plan into motion and start with one and get forward. And the sooner you start, the sooner you get.
And the truth is, even with JVs, I mean, we have the ability to run big launches and get a lot of support because you've built that reputation over time. Both you and Andy separately and now together, it's like the perfect storm coming together. But the truth is, in launches, you pay for your leads. Mm-hmm. So even though you have all the support and they have...
It's the least risky, but the most expensive.
They have higher qualified. So back in the day with direct mail, we would have purchased a list. And the list we would purchase, the more qualified we could make it, the more expensive the list would be because the lead was what they call a hotter prospect. In other words, they're just more interested. The lead is more interested, they're more likely to respond to the offer. And that was the direct mail days. Now with the online, people have their lists that they've built, their community, who are responsive to this. And in order to bring them into the new offer that we have to offer prizes, payouts, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so when you break it down, and truth be told, you pay for every lead you have.
At least 50% of the profit that you bring in. And on advertising, we see with our Facebook advertising, one of our campaigns is doing 10 times the investment. Right. With affiliates, it's 2 to 1. That means it's a very expensive form of.
I think it was. We're paying
traffic.
We're paying with traffic $30 a conversion to sale, and if we have an affiliate, it's $60.
Yeah.
So double. And the crazy thing is with Brendan's doing his launch right now with Total Product Blueprint. It's going very well. But there's not only the affiliate payout, but then you have the live event. You have the mastermind retreat.
Yeah.
As
the hard cost.
And then you
put in later.
And then you have because this is relationships you're building. So a lot of people think that they can launch a product, and if we get a lot of people to promote us, we'll be successful. But again, it takes a lot to get joint ventures behind you. I can tell you from experience, it's a lot easier to take the investment that you would spend on joint venture prizes and stuff like that, and invest in advertising and make a quicker return on investment than the long game. Now, of course, if you have the ideal plan, you do it all. But at the end of the day, when you can basically drive traffic and make sales, and you make more than what you spend, now you're great. And when you don't have anything to sell, you can test offers quickly. And the beautiful thing with Google and Facebook is you can set a budget, and they'll spend that day, and that will give you enough results.
Data. That's
so
what
you
I
can
like.
see, is this good? Is
I would
this
love
not
to
good?
spend $100 and only bring in 60, and people say I lost money, it's no, you purchased information. Now you have a point to say, put it in a spreadsheet, what if I did this to my conversion, raised my price to this, kept the conversion the same,
What if I had upsells?
what if I had upsells, and what if I could monetize that on a webinar in 30 days, and you play with those numbers, and then change the headline and all those different things. So here's what I'm going to tell you when it comes to Facebook advertising. Mistake number one, start with a landing page, drive traffic to it. Doesn't work that way. If you want to do proper Facebook advertising, the way we do it in this company, first is we find the audience. And we say, if we're going to go after an audience, is it our own internal list that we're going to upload to Facebook as Evergreen Business System customers owners? We're going to do a special campaign to them. So how can I start with a landing page first if I haven't identified the market? So the most effective advertising you're going to get, I like to use the word scented, but it's message to market match, and it's going back 50 years they've been saying that. If I know that I'm targeting to the Evergreen customers or the GoToWebinar customers, I want to have a different message. Yes, it takes a little time, but get in front of the studio. We call this pre-framing, and then we blur the video and go into the main message. So this is the way it works. Sassy, you'll know this. We shoot the main message. So here's what Webinar Jam does. Boom, 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 boom. And I say, all right, Sassy, that's the core. That's the core. And then what we do is I go down a list and I say, Evergreen Business System owners. Hi guys, Mike Fulsame here. Because you purchased Evergreen Business System, what we're going to do is this, that, and the other thing. Let me tell you a little bit about what the software does, and then we blur into that. I'm wearing the same shirt, and we come back and I do the close. And then I'll look on the list and I'll say, okay, this one we're targeting to GoToWebinar people. Hi, this is Mike Fulsame with Marketing Genesis. Andy Jenkins here. If you're using GoToWebinar, so now we're creating, excuse me guys, it's a little bug that we got. We're creating videos from the starting point, and we create landing pages. If you guys are in the mastermind, you remember the Webinar Jam email? It said, hey, Mad Scientist members, because you're a member of the Mad Scientist and you guys got the best offer of all. So we did not have a generic landing page that we threw all of our traffic to. I know it takes a little bit of time, but it wasn't that difficult to simply have a little message that said, because you're a mad scientist, and we created separate landing pages for our different Facebook campaigns and email campaigns.
And this goes back to the connection we were talking about earlier. The personalization creates connection, and in the fitness space, which I'm heavily involved and work a lot with fitness professionals. Anytime you can mention age or specific amount of weights, all of those things make a big difference. And so personalization is huge. There's software out there that allows you to personalize VSLs with people's first names. They take the generic, they take the list of generic names, they bundle it through, they clip the beginning of it, you have to go through and record all of that. But when you have something that works and then you personalize it, it's like putting a little bit of propane on the fire. The fire's already there, but it's that propane that blows it up.
Well, that's what gets you from spending $1 and making 80 cents to spending $1 and making $1.20.
It's a tipping point.
That's it. It's a little bit of work, but it's the necessary stuff that you need to do. It's the logical stuff. So we not only advise it, we say it's
go back to the question: how do we drive most of our traffic? Obviously, if it's a launch through JVs, outside of the launch, our focus right now is on paid traffic. We're not doing much of social media. We're not doing much of. We're using paid traffic on social media, but our social media, we're getting ready to ramp up. But that's not where our focus is. Our focus right now is on paid traffic. So hopefully that answers the question.
So we have a question. Yes, it does. Great job. We have a question here with my old man glasses on. We have a question here from Leslie. I'm going to do webinars for clients. How much do you think I can charge for a webinar? It's such a open-ended question. We don't know the niche, and I don't want.
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's three things.
And Donna, if you're listening, if you can get more information from Leslie on her niche, what she's selling, and what her competition. I'd like to start with where the competition is currently selling.
So obviously, with this, you have three options. Number one is just a 1-hour consult, and you just kind of brainstorm. Two is to walk them through. It's done with you, so they come up with everything, and then you review it for them. You go through it. And then, of course, the third option is done for you, which is the one you could charge the highest for. And depending on the level of done for you, depends on the price. So here's the deal. If you're setting everything up, you're writing the webinar content, you're creating the perfect offer for the webinar, you're running the Hangout, and they're just showing up and you're doing all the work for them, that kind of service could run into the, a five-figure deal.
Yeah, if you're writing the copy,
yeah,
and you're building, like, in other words, if you're going to do somebody's Evergreen webinar funnel, you're going to write the copy, create the slides, build it out, and everything like that. So that's a $10,000, $20,000
right.
job.
And so the question comes back to, number one, how much do you want to do of it? And number two, how do you position yourself? And that's really going to be determine what you can charge is your positioning, because if they can't do it without you, then they need you. And so the simple choice for them is, do we invest or not? Depending on what they're selling is going to determine, you can kind of predict how much you could make off of the Hangout. And if you have case studies, that strengthens your case. For instance, if someone, every Hangout they've done, they make $60,000, them investing with you $15,000, $20,000 is not that expensive when they could run that Hangout once a month. And they know each time they run it, they bring in $60,000. So ideally for that, if you're writing everything, setting it up, scripting the pitch, telling them how to structure the product, all of those things, the price goes up. The less of that you do, the price comes down, because at the end of the day, your involvement is much less. And so if they're doing all the work and you're just advising them, of course, naturally, you're not going to charge quite as much. But again, it depends on the niche, because if you're serving a niche that could go, if the product they're selling is a $50,000 product, and there's corporations and companies you could work with that potentially sell that, you charging $50,000 for a consult doesn't seem that expensive when they're thinking they're going to make at least 10 sales.
Right.
So again, it's all dependent on the niche.
Yeah, and to get the higher price, you've got to be able to show what you just said, what the end result is for the customer to be able to get more money. How you guys liking AJ? Let us know in the comments what you like about.
So it looks like we got a little bit more information.
Cool. I just got a quick thing here from John as we go, and we'll go back to Leslie. You guys mentioned James Schramko. I know he disbanded his affiliate program because it was less expensive to buy Facebook traffic and more targeted. Is that true?
Yeah.
He's no longer doing affiliates. I mean, but
drives all his own.
Did he have? Was it more? Not that it's just. Like, he doesn't want to compete with his affiliates.
No,
is that what it
there's
is?
more to that.
Okay,
so,
there has to be. Right?
James's business model, what he's discovered is that the people he attracts and people he worked with, they don't want to hear about offers. They don't want him to promote other people, like the big offers and stuff like that. So he basically pulled out as an affiliate, and I think in ethics he believed that if he wasn't out there promoting, then he shouldn't be trying to ask people to promote him. So I think that there was a little bit more to it than just the investing the money versus affiliate.
Yeah, I think he'll probably go back.
The other thing is when you have certain affiliates or a business that attracts affiliates, you can't necessarily control all your affiliates, and so that creates problems there as well. And so I don't know the story with that, if there was anything, but sometimes I know a couple of guys in the fitness space back when the Asia Berry kind of wiped everyone off of Google with their spam and basically ruined AdWords for weight loss market. A lot of those guys had issues because their affiliates were, doing those fake vlogs and stuff like that. And so some of them took their products off of ClickBank and started either controlling their affiliates or moved away from the affiliate model because it just became too much. A couple of guys were served with lawsuits because certain affiliates had made claims, and so there's a lot of stuff that comes into it and comes into play. And so the affiliate game essentially is another division of your business. You're going to have a full-time manager, you're going to have all this stuff. The more you grow, the harder it is, and James has a very successful business, and so my guess is as they expanded, it just became too much of a headache for what he was comfortable doing. And it just made more sense to invest the money in paid advertising, pay someone to run the advertising versus paying them to manage affiliates and things like that. So that would be my guess based on the limited knowledge I have on it.
A little more info, as you said, from Leslie. I don't know if it requires going back, but we'll find out. Leslie says, I do interviews with women entrepreneurs, and I want to do webinars, then turn them into automated webinars. So first of all, you're on the right track. That's what you want to do, but I think your question still applies. Thank you, Dave, for your update on that. Hate seeing that one in there.
Yeah, and I think if you're going through the process and you're also delivering the back end, so you're not only doing the webinars, but then you're automating them, there may be, if they're willing to pay, great. there may be an opportunity where you can get a front-end fee and a royalty on the back end, because it does seem like you're going to be going into. So it just comes down to setting up the deal you want with that, and then sticking to it. And trust me, if you're going to that level of service for people, there's people out there that will willingly pay 5 figures for you to set it up.
There you go. 2 more questions. One's going to come from you. And we're going to take one that we have here, either from the Mad Scientist group discussions that we saw going on. So AJ's going to pull out a question. In the meantime, put a question in that we can take after this next question. It'll be the last question of the jam session that we're doing here. We'll wrap it up in 90 minutes, let you guys get back to your marketing. So what question did we have from our group in here?
So there was a question, I think it's Linnell DeRue. She posted about her domain name. Mm-hmm. And so what's better, your smile?
Open this door while you're asking that. It's a little warm in here.
The question was, which domain did we like better? I simplified, which domain is better, yoursmilesystem.com or mysmilesystem.com? And not getting into whether the name of the product is good, me and Mike wanted to focus on the question, is it your or my, and get into a little bit of the psychology with that, because it doesn't only apply to domain names, but it applies to language in your emails, to language on your landing pages, and basically anything where you're communicating with another person and how they perceive the information. So
the answer is you always want to be thinking as the customer, not as you talking to the customer. So if you're thinking of yourself talking to the customer as yoursmilesystem.com, that's you imposing the way that you're thinking your marketing into their brain. They don't see it that way. When the customer comes to the website and they see yoursmilesystem.com, what does that have to do with them? Very, very, very logical. If they see something that says, I'm looking for something for a wider smile, and I come to something that says my smile system, I'm going to immediately identify with it more. So it's great that you have both those domains, but in that context, I think it's much better to go after anything with the my instead of your.
Yeah, and we've seen that with buttons for like free reports, or on a squeeze page or a lead capture page, the button saying. So a lot of people say get instant access. A lot of people say download your report, and the simple shift to download my report increases conversions. Just a simple shift, because they are expecting something for them, and it's the whole what's in it for me. When they come to the page, if it's download your report versus download my report, it's very generic. It's yours, and it's a report that's written. Same with the language we use in email. If we're talking about if us or them versus you, it's the same thing. And so when we talk to someone, again, going back to what Mike says, you want to think in terms of the customer and how they're perceiving that conversation, and they're going to take ownership if you do it. And that goes into the psychology of it. And again, it's just the little shifts in words can create a conversion regardless of what the call to action is. Fantastic question.
And it applies. So not only the domain, as AJ says, it's every call to action that you do. Give me my free report. Download my mind maps or anything like that instead of yours. That's the way you want to communicate. One visitor at a time on that landing page. I'm laughing because Scott S. could be Scott Cioli, I would assume, says, Mike, as to AJ, very impressive, interesting, good, enjoyable speaker with great knowledge. It's scrolling this way. I got to keep finding it. Looks like he needs a protein shake about now. Thanks, AJ, for sharing with us.
That's why we're wrapping it up at 90 minutes.
Does AJ have contact details? Yeah, AJ Roberts at marketinggenesis.com, and they can find you on YouTube to see. Yeah, honestly, this guy will scare you with an extra 100 pounds in some of his videos. I was intimidated just looking at the videos.
Most of them, they won't recognize me, but it's...
So those of you that joined late, I know we got 50% more people on than when I announced. Just a reminder, Andy was sick. He'll be back next time. AJ will probably be joining us. We might even do the 3 of us. AJ is new with the company. You might have seen him running Yanik Silver's event over the years, especially in the underground online seminar. He was the MC, proposed to his wife on stage last year at the last underground event. And he was 100 pounds heavier. He was the strongest man in the world, and that's not just a title that was given to him. The strongest guy ever to walk the planet. Nobody had ever bench pressed, squatted, and deadlifted more weight than him. Up until a couple of years ago, 3 people have since beat him, so he's the 4th strongest guy to ever walk the world. You wouldn't recognize him now in this cool, good-looking looking shape here. You look him up on YouTube, you'll see him 100 pounds heavier when he was doing that stuff. So AJ's got a really big name in the health community. He's a spokesperson for CrossFit, does a lot of their events. He's a marketing expert. I put him right up there with with myself, Andy, a lot of people. He's a great asset to our company, and he runs the marketing division in our company. All right, so let's look in Skype and see if we got any last questions here. I don't think so. Download my report. Yep, AJ, very good. New perspective. Voice looks blah, blah, blah. More accolades. Everybody likes what we have here. Got your Facebook page put in there.
Well, Mike's just looking for if there's any question. What I like, we've mentioned about going and wishing Andy well, but if we want to get the word out always, and so if you've enjoyed this jam session, we plan to do a lot more for you guys. And so if you will just comment on Facebook that you were just hanging out with Mike and Mike at Marketing Genesis, and tag that, and that would be great. Get some social proof out there, because we know it's important, but we rarely ask. So if you guys did enjoy it, feel free to share the love and comment on your Facebook page that you were just hanging out with us and that you enjoyed this jam session and you checked it out. A lot of people said they haven't seen Webinar Jam in play, and we've just been on 90 minutes live with multiple cameras and stuff like that. So there you go. There's your proof.
Yeah, you can bring good technology to it because it's powered by Google Hangouts, and the marketing got everybody on here. Just a couple of things. A couple of people had some questions, and we said we're not going to talk about Traffic Zombie. Traffic Zombie is a product I did 4 or 5 years ago with maybe 4 or 5 years ago with Brian Kaz. Sold my interest in that. Had asked him several times to redo the video, take it off. So been a lot of confusion there. As you know, Hector, who does Evergreen Business System with us and Webinar Jam, right? He'll be here in February. And Deal Guardian, as part of all the company going under the Marketing Genesis umbrella, Deal Guardian is our future. So because of that, I've sold my interest in Pay.com to Brian Kaz as well and Sean Casey. So unfortunately, part of our contract in the 30 days was that while we were communicating with the Pay.com members, we were going to be using my name and Brian Kaz and Sean Casey. Unfortunately, it was a terrible part of the contract because they immediately went in, started mailing very, very hard. So guys, if you saw mailings over the last 30 days just pounding your inbox, Mike Hussein, Brian Kaz, Sean Casey, that was not me and Andy. Unfortunately, my name had to be attached to it. It had nothing to do with me other than a transition from Brian Kaz and Sean Casey taking over Pay.com. I have not formally announced that to the public other than just now you guys knowing about it.
At the inside.
If you see something, Mike Hussein, Brian Kaz, Sean Casey, it's not coming from me. I don't endorse it. I'm not making any financial income from it. And if you would have noticed the last couple of days, I noticed it still says what they haven't done. I told them change it. So it came from mike@marketing.com, but they finally changed it. It only comes from Brian Kaz. They changed the footer address, everything like that. So guys, unfortunately, that's why we don't want to hear questions about Traffic Zombie. Great product, something that Brian and I had in the past, but that's in the past, and we're moving forward with things we believe in. If it doesn't fit in our brand, we're not talking about it. My name's being removed from those things, and we're moving into things that we feel are current today for marketing today. So you've heard it here. If that explains a little bit more, we're coming right around the 2.5 hour point. I don't know that there's any other questions, or you had one more.
Yeah, we can fire one up. I get a personal question. I think a lot of these guys, so they want to know like what's working now. That's the biggest question everyone always gets at Traffic Conversion. The biggest panel that was on stage was the people with their big hits or something like that, whatever the thing is. So for you, in terms of right now trends, what would you say these guys should be focusing on in the next 90 days, say?
Number one, I'll look at this camera over here, Sassy. So number one is speed to market. Take technology out of the situation. So you've got things like lead pages, Megaphone by Kajabi. There's optimized person. I'm even leaning more towards the lead pages and megaphones. Get your landing pages up very, very quickly. Use something like Webinar Jam. Use something like, in my opinion, I think if you're not ready for Infusionsoft, get away from it. Use something like the good old-fashioned ClickBanks, Deal Guardian, One Shopping Carts right now to get your products going if you're new to the market. We spoke about it. All the technology, you end up putting 80% of your efforts for the other 20% of the income. All the ninja stuff in technology is something that optimizes something when you prove the concept. Get it out there first, put a PayPal button, use Deal Guardian, get it out there, and prove your concept first. Simple speed to market. Next thing, before I'm worried about affiliates and networking, getting people, hey, AJ, I've got a good product. I know you're in the health niche. Screw all that stuff. Distribution. Create your own distribution channels. Go out, figure out the advertising game. Folks, there are millions of people doing Facebook. You got to ask yourself at a certain point, why not you? I know many of you are doing it already, but forget this free traffic game. There's no such thing. There's an investment. If you had a barbershop, if you were a plumber, if you were a pizza place, you have a business, you advertise. I mean, every single one of them. They put coupons, they're in the Yankee Trader, the Penny Saver, they're in the newspaper. The world works on getting leads. If you're not prepared to get in and start doing advertising for your business with Facebook, at least right there, and at least figure out that game, I'm going to be harsh on you right now. I'm going to tell you, you got to get out of the business. You set your own budget, $10 a day. I'd be so excited to spend $5 or $10 and find out what kind of results I got. Quick technology, write a free report, make it 10 pages, get up a squeeze page on lead pages, and one last thing I'm going to tell you, and AJ will get your feedback. Our good friend John Reese tells you the people that win in this game are the people that have more add to cart buttons and more offers out there. You want to succeed in this game, get out there and create more offers. Take your packages and put a red ribbon around it, a blue ribbon around it, a yellow ribbon around it, repurpose your content and create offers. It's that simple. That's what's working today, is speed to the market with simplicity and technology.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing people say is, how do you make money online? The truth is, you make offers, and you make offers by getting out quickly. And we're big funnel guys. We believe in funnels. You know, I've been doing Facebook traffic since the minute they released it. All of that stuff is great, but you have to be selling. And so you can build your machine, you can build your funnel after you've launched. We have done this many times. We launch a product, we have the pre-videos, we have the launch video, and then we have the upsells. That's what we start with. We don't have autoresponders in place for after the sale. We don't have you know, exit bar, all this stuff. We go back and we start taking it and we start building the machine. We take the upsells and make them front-end offers. We build autoresponders to sell to the people that don't purchase the upsells. We do all that after, because if we try to do that before, it would take, you know, 3 months to get to market versus 30 days. And sometimes, I mean, with Webinar Jam, we turned around and that was in 1 week.
That's right. 20% of your efforts are going to bring in 80% of the profit. So if you spend that first 20% of the efforts, go to market right there. Don't spend the next 80% of your efforts working on the email autoresponder follow-up number 13 and all these different things that are only going to bring in 20% of the profit. And you may even prove that, that the offer didn't even work. What a waste of time.
And the tech side of it, as much as we, you know, we have our preferences, the truth is, anything you use is better than nothing. Mm-hmm. And so when you ask a question that says, is this, or this better, you should have just gone and already purchased something, because by the time you wait 3 hours to get the response, you could have already purchased one product, learned what it does, and figured out how to use it in your business.
Mind Valley uses Office Autopilot.
Right.
$10 million your company.
Yep.
Digital marketer uses Infusionsoft. We've run on Deal Guardian for many of our launches. So the technology is not the question which is better. It's just get out there and do what's comfortable for you. I think that's it. Yeah,
definitely pick something, stick to it. When it's up and rolling, then you can play around and you can experiment. But get going, get offers out there. The more offers you have, the better.
What if I don't have an upsell? Don't worry. I wouldn't even start with a product. I'd start building my list, as you said, try to find ways to acquire that lead at zero cost with an affiliate product. Yeah. Prove the landing page works with the advertising, then you can create a product. You got a product, then create the upsell. You build it out as it goes. You don't want to go to an event and learn all these different things and then think that you have to build out this perfect thing, because you know what? By the time you do that, the trends are going to change. Yeah. You know, exactly. And you just got to get the offers out there.
Yep. Simple as that.
Fail fast.
Fail fast and move
quickly.
And go forward. And the truth is, anytime you do fail, there's a lesson there, and you'll learn something. And so the next time you go, you'll do better. And if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, most of them have had an epic fail. You know, we don't have time to go into our own stories, but you know, you're going to have failures. You're going to have momentum, massive success, but the bigger the success you are, sometimes the bigger the failures. But the truth is, and the thing to remember is that as long as you keep moving forward, it all works out. And so you get to where you want to get to by moving in that right direction. If you just stay where you're at and don't do anything, you'll stay where you're at. I can guarantee your results in 30 days if you do nothing will be the same as they are today. But if you move forward, I guarantee something will happen.
The feedback was great on the advice that we gave. I'm looking at the comments here. Failure is just a test result. Great. Thank you guys. Great hangout. Cheers, Mike and AJ. Best to Andy. Thanks for the kick in the butt. Great advice. I've also wondered why I haven't had that answer. Boom. Excellent. Help right to the point. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Again, we're 60 seconds ahead of you by the time that you get it. So we're still getting your feedback. Let us know what you thought. We're probably going to be back in 2 weeks because Andy really wanted to be here. Just found out this morning that he couldn't make it. He was starting to text me last night that he was getting the cold sweats. Don't forget, hit him up on Facebook. Wish him well. He'd really love to hear from you. This wraps up our jam session with Webinar Jam. Sorry that we conflicted with Ted, the other member. He had scheduled his teaching of Webinar Jam and Hangouts at the same time for the Mastermind members. Hopefully he sent them all over here so there was no conflict. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. It's been our pleasure, and now that we've got the holidays, AJ is now in the mad sciences. We've got the holidays, the engagements, the sicknesses, the cruise, and traveling to New York, and all that stuff out of the way. Andy and I look forward to jumping in head first and being in those mad scientist threads with you as we just launched this brand new community with you guys. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care.